And in any case he wasn't as afraid as had thought he'd be. He was just very, very tired. I'm probably dreaming. He'll disappear in a minute. He closed his eyes and drifted away. I've got them, sir. Voices. In the master bedroom. Danny Maguire punched the air with relief. And the others? Yes, sir, we have contact. Dem Artin, Capiri, do you copy? The Indian policeman's furious voice was the first on the line. Maguire? Where the fuck have you been? Never mind that. Get into the house now. They're in the master. Get Ishak out of there. Hanging up, Danny turned back to the sound engineer. Can you hear Ishak? Is he alive? The sound engineer clasped his headphones, closing his eyes in concentration. I'm not sure. I can hear the woman. Suddenly the man ripped the headphones from his ears. Danny Maguire didn't need to ask why. Everybody in the van heard Sarah Jane Ishak scream. In David Ishak's bedroom, the man in black pulled his mask off and smiled. What's the matter, Angel? He asked. Were you expecting someone else? Chapter 30. From his hiding place, he could see them perfectly. The man in black and the woman now calling herself Sarah Jane Ishak. She could call herself whatever she liked. He knew who she was. And who she was. She was his. His love. His woman. The urge to jump out at that very moment and grab her was overpowering. But had waited too long for this, invested too much time and effort. He had to see how the scene played out. The man in black pointed to David Ishak. Is he dead? David lay on his back on the bed, as still as stone. Sarah Jane leaned over him. No. Has still breathing. He didn't expect him to go down so fast. You must have put too much in. Don't blame me. She was angry. I followed your instructions to the letter. He told you we shouldn't have drugged him first. What if he has heart failure? What if the police find the stuff in his system? Be quiet. The man in black punched her hard in the face. From his hiding place in the closet, he could hear the sickening crunch of her cheekbone as Sarah Jane slumped to the floor whimpering. He watched as the man in black pulled her up by the hair. Who are you to tell me what we should and shouldn't do? You're nobody, that's who. Say it. Say it. I'm nobody, Sarah Jane sobbed. You have no life. Her voice was barely a whisper now. I have no life. Hearing her recite the words seemed to pacify the man slightly. He let go of her hair. We had to drug him or had have fought back. The others were all too old to defend themselves. He held his knife up to the light. Nodding contemptuously at David, he said, we'll do him later. First it's your turn. Sarah Jane backed away, scrambling across the bedroom floor on her hands and knees like a frightened crab. No. Please. You don't have to do this. Of course I have to do it. The others were all punished, weren't they? Angela, Tracy, Irina, Lisa. Why should conniving little Sarah Jane get off scot-free? Please, Sarah Jane begged. The terror in her voice was unmistakable. I did everything you asked, you said you wouldn't hurt me. But the man in black appeared unmoved by entreaties or tears. He wasn't a man at all. He was an animal. With a feral snarl he pounced on Sarah Jane, pinning her to the ground. One hand tore at her skin while the other pressed the knife hard against her throat. Instinctively she struggled, kicking her legs vainly under the weight of him. He was pulling up the skirt of her dress, jamming her thighs open with his knee. The man in the closet could wait no longer. Bursting into the room, he hurled himself on the man in black, smashing the butt of his gun repeatedly into the back of the man's skull. Blood gushed everywhere, warm and sticky and vital. In seconds the vile animal hand that had been clawing between Sarah Jane's legs fell limp. Sarah Jane screwed her eyes shut, not daring to breathe. Was it really over? Was he really dead? The next thing she was aware of was the dead weight being dragged off her. Someone, her savior, rolled the man in black's body onto the floorboards with a thud, like a sack of earth. Was it David, poor dear David, awakened from the effects of the narcotic, loyal and protective to the last? Or had the police finally figured it out, finally come to take them into custody and put an end to all the years of madness? To save her and her sister. To make it stop. She turned around and found herself gazing into familiar, loving eyes. "It's all right, Lisa," Matt Daly whispered. "It's all right, my darling. You're safe now." Matt touched her face, tracing his finger lovingly over each feature. Her right cheek had swollen up like an overripe plum where the bastard had hurt her. He would never hurt her again. "Lisa." Matt Daly started to cry. "My poor Lisa." She opened her mouth to say something, but the gunshot was so loud it drowned out her reply. For a second Matt Daly's face registered something. It wasn't pain. More like extreme surprise. Then his world softly faded to black. Chapter 31 Riot Capiri was in the house. Seconds later Claude Martin and his three-man team joined him, followed by a breathless Danny Maguire. "Where are the servants?" Danny demanded. "In the kitchens, Said Capiri. I have 6 armed officers with them. They've barricaded the doors." "Good. You and Martin take the main staircase. I'll go up by the servants' route. How about 2 of my guys go with you as cover, Said Capiri?" It was a statement, not a question, but Danny didn't object. They had no time for power struggles, not now. A gunshot rang out. The 3 men looked at one another, then ran for the stairs. "How could you?" "How could I?" The man in black clutched at the wound on the back of his head. He still felt dizzy, as if he might black out at any moment. "He left me for dead, Sophia, in case you hadn't noticed." Sophia Buster's eyes filled with tears. "He was protecting me." "My God, Frankie. You didn't have to kill him." Frankie Mancini frowned. It was unfortunate Dad had been forced to shoot Daly. The man was, after all, Andrew Yaka's son. Technically that made him one of the children. One of the victims Frankie had devoted his life to avenging. It was even more unfortunate that the silencer on his gun had failed. A member of the household staff could come in at any moment. The police might already be on their way. They didn't have much time. "Bolt the door," he barked. But Sophia just stood there, watching Matt's blood ooze into the rug. "For God's sake, Sophia," Frankie said defensively. "I tried to get him to leave Mumbai. I did my best. He shouldn't have been here. He came here for me. Because he loved me," Sophia sobbed. "He loved me and I loved him." "Loved you?" Frankie Mancini scoffed cruelly. "My dear girl. He didn't even know who you were. He loved Lisa Baring. And who was she? Nobody, that's who, a character who I invented, a figment of my imagination. If Matt Daly loved anyone, it was me, now you. Now bolt the damn door." Sophia Buster did as she was asked. She saw the madness blazing in Frankie's eyes. Poor Matt. Why did he come for me? Why didn't he run, break free while he had the chance? He didn't deserve to die, Frankie. Be quiet. Mancini shrieked, waving his pistol menacingly in the air. "I decide who lives and who dies. I have the power. You are my wife. You will do as I command you, or on my life, Sophia, your sister will be next. Do you understand?" Sophia nodded. She understood. Fear and obedience were all she understood. All she had ever known. For a few short, blissful months of her life, as Lisa Baring, in Bali with Matt Daly, she had been shown a glimpse of another way, another life. But it was not to be. "Police." Danny Maguire's voice rang out like a siren. Pounding footsteps could be heard behind him on the stairs. A second salvation. Mancini's eyes widened in panic. He handed Sophia the knife. "Do it." "Do what?" "Oh no." "Frankie, no." Her eyes followed his gaze to the bed. In all the drama with Matt, she'd momentarily forgotten that David Ishak was even in the room, but now she could see him stirring, the effects of the drug she'd fed him earlier beginning to wear off. "This is the end, Angel. Our last kill. The sacrifice that will win your sister's life. Police." Fists pounded on the door. "It's only right that it should be yours. Do it." "Frankie, he can't." "Do it." Mancini was screaming, howling like a mad dog. "Cut his throat or I'll shoot you both." "Do it." Images flashed through Sophia's mind one by one. Reading the book with Frankie back at the orphanage. How beautiful he was then, and how gentle. You're a princess, Sophia. The others are just jealous. Andrew Jakes, their first kill, with blood spurting from his neck like thick red water from a fountain. Piers Henley, funny, cerebral Piers, WHO fought back until they shot him in the head, splattering his brilliant brain all over the bedroom walls. Didier Anjou, pleading for his life as the blade sunk into his flesh again and again and again. Miles Baring, collapsing instantly as the knife pierced his heart. Matt Daly, the one true innocent of all of them. Matt who had loved her, who had given her hope. Matt who lay dead and cold at her feet. She thought of the living. Her sister, her flesh and blood, out there somewhere. David Ishak, stirring groggily back to life on the bed. Slit his throat. Frankie's voice, excited, aroused as it always was by blood and death and vengeance. Police. Sledgehammers pounded against the door, splintering the wood. "You can't," Sophia said calmly, closing her mind to the clamor and roar as she let the knife drop at her feet. "Shoot if you want to, Frankie. But he can't do it. Not anymore." At long last the door gave way. Armed men swarmed into the room. "Police. Put your hands in the air." David Ishak opened his eyes just in time to see Danny Maguire, gun drawn, panting in the doorway. "You sure took your bloody time," he murmured weakly. Then somebody fired a single shot. And it was all over.